Welcome to the Angelscapes podcast, where you're encouraged to uncover and develop a direct connection with your soul's power, wisdom, and spiritual intuition that is ready to blossom. We'll explore new ideas, compelling tips, and real steps to help you learn simple spiritual practices. We're a safe place to learn more about accessing your soul's power with education and spiritual wholeness that could bring more clarity to your life. Now here's your host, a practicing medium, Akashic Records practitioner, spirit artist, coach, and mentor, Dr. Reverend Nancy Smith.
Are you guys wondering what the stars and the Akashic Records have in store for 2024? And are the times really changing, and how much are they changing? This is Angelscapes, and I'm your host, Nancy Smith, and I'm with Mary Dalba, astrologer. And I've opened up my records. She's opened up her all of her planet. What do you call that book? The
ephemeris. Yes.
Ephemeris. She's got her ephemeris wide open. And we're going to talk to you about what we're seeing for 2024. I want to just really quickly tell you why it works to look into the Akashic Records. The Akashic energy isn't a linear time. It's actually a big balloon full of cookies that you just, or apples that you just pick off the branches and say, okay, what's in this apple? So I picked off the apple of 2024 for our community, our country, the world, and ourselves personally. And Mary, of course, has all those in the planets. So welcome, Mary. How's it going?
Hey, it's great, Nance. How are you doing?
It's been so long since you've been on here, and I love having you on here.
Thank you for having me. Hi, everybody. Yes.
So I just was looking at 2023 and what was left over. So at a personal level, on a global level, and even in our country, because I feel like we need to talk about our country here, so the records are open for all of those things. And I just feel like there's a lot of success from 2023 for a lot of people, a lot of joy, a lot of really, really good stuff. And I feel like resources kind of came in a surprising way. But I also feel that as we were trying to solve these problems, as we come into one, our face-to-face moment to God, and we found resources. I feel like, okay, now that you got this far, you got to look a little deeper and a little wider, because there's more. And and I feel like we're going to see that more in 2024. I feel like a little bit of wheels turning in 23 with redemption, but nothing really redeemed. So we're trying, but we're still in the same mud hole. And that is suddenly the rubber, I feel, is going to hit the road and move forward suddenly. And that's kind of, but with 23, we thought we were making progress, but we'll wait till next year. And we also had freedom. The concept for me is my passion bringing me forward, or are my fears keeping me from my passion? And I felt like a really important character that came forward in the end of 2023 was Jelly Roll. I feel like he's telling a really important story for all of us to hear. And I don't know who could argue with me, but he just hit me so hard when I was listening to him, and then later saw him on the Grammys, and then later saw him interviewed everywhere because he won a Grammy. But it's kind of taking a look at who you really are, what you've been doing, and is it working or is it not working? And you're responsible. We are responsible for everything we think and do. We can't keep blaming the other guy or the other thing. So really 24, I feel like we got some good looks. 23, 24. I'm really looking for the wisdom to the real stuff. So and I also felt that as far as systems and things and connections, Archangel Metatron is really working with us in 23, in terms of changing our thoughts, changing our minds, changing our way of looking at it. So really being careful about what you wish for, be careful of your thoughts, be careful of what you're hooking into and believing and becoming totally like enamored with. Because again, look deeper, look wider. And so anyway, that was my thoughts for what was leftovers from 23. Do you have anything for that, Mary?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things I'll mention. Is that and we'll talk a lot about this in 2024, everyone, Pluto. So there's been a lot of talk about Pluto, and we kind of throw that around. Oh, Pluto's doing its thing. Well, who is Pluto? Pluto is the slowest moving planet that we have in astrology that we work with right now. Pluto can take anywhere from 15 to 20 some odd years to change signs. So it really is like a generational planet if you think about it. So Pluto has been in Capricorn, which has all been about changes in business, changes in how we view the world. Can we be out in the world differently? So like someone like Jelly Roll is out, like he's um out there, telling a different story. We've seen that in politics. We have new folks in politics, different folks. So it's what it was doing was really shaking up those structures. We've gone to a lot of companies now have gone to remote work. You can work from anywhere. So all these things really were on our mind, and they were really coming to an end in 2023 to set the stage for transformation through the Aquarian energy. And Aquarian energy is very rebellious, it's very inventive, it's they're the forefront thinkers, but they're also the ones that say this, whatever this is, needs to be changed, and we'll fight for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we got a taste of it last year. But now we're really going to get into it for 2024. So I know that's going to be a lot of our discussion, but we just, it kind of gave us a little like, here's what you're going to expect. And now it's going to be really shaking things up during an election year.
And that's important. We need
Mhm.
picking up this
Yeah,
election year.
I agree. I
we-
agree.
As we
Yeah.
got a good look at a lot of stuff. And so let's
Yeah.
go through. I did two things. I went through the quarters, but
Mhm.
then I just had these big overall hits. So I thought I would save the big overall hits after we do the quarters, so we
Sure.
could just get down in, if that's all right with you. I'll just
Sounds great.
so let's see. Let's see. Social issues resurgence. First quarter.
Mhm.
So the first quarter, January, February, March, and we're already halfway through January.
Yeah.
And I just want to point out that we had two school shootings by January 4th. So we still have that energy around us. And I feel like for people, we could continue to go find what you love and that is beneficial and for the highest good, and then build skills, partly self-believing in yourself, because the thing that what you love, what's aligning with your soul, what's aligning to go forward, isn't matching anything around you. So you're going to find a way to really build and self-confidence to move forward and be an innovator out there.
Mhm.
And I feel that those of us, or those of you who've been kind of sitting and thinking, well, that should be this way, this should be that way, it's time to get off the couch.
Right.
And so you're going to find yourself, maybe by February, especially by the end of March, very uncomfortable on your couch. And it's still the thing, Metatron is still coming in with watch your words. People are misunderstanding what is being said on the global level. They're misunderstanding on the political level. They're misunderstanding just in the community and on a personal level. Be careful what you say, because I don't know, for some reason this quarter it's big about misunderstandings or opposing things that will end. I had a friend of mine said this great saying, so things are going to oppose what you're saying and end what you're saying. And the thing of it is, that's not what is meant to happen. That's not the action to take. It's like, you have two sides, let's come to the table. So
Right.
you're no longer opposing and who's right and who's wrong. You're at the table, putting it on the table, talking about it. So it's time for change. It's time for leaving bad patterns. We are watching huge bad patterns that are thousands of years old just wreak havoc and destroy people. So at what point is that going to come to the end? And I think we're seeing there is no winner.
No.
There's only a table. So the answer here to see the guiding thoughts would be here is to stay focused on balance, stay focused on where is the flow of the truth, which is not in the flow of the argument, and heal the conflict, because it's costing personally too much. It's costing too much globally, and for our country. And I'll get into it later. Later in the quarters, it's costing our country too much.
Yeah, it's true.
I
Yeah.
don't know. Would you get Mary for?
So the I'm just actually, and some folks have made some comments. So guys, we will Gail and Susan have said hello, and Melissa is glad she made it. And then um Megan, I'm sorry if I pronounced your name wrong, hon.
Yeah.
But I think people are guessing as no one gives the truth. Well, yeah, we're all filling in the blanks, right? So that's a good, so that helps me segue. So Mercury went direct on January 1st. So we came into the new year with Mercury direct. What that means is it was retrograde for most of December. So if you noticed around the holidays that there was miscommunications, people made plans, they couldn't make it. There was changes. There was, we were going to meet here and now we got to change it to here. And travel was really, I know people in the airports were like crazy. I've heard stuff about that on the news. So Mercury going direct for this in this first quarter, which is good because it actually goes retrograde on April 1st, and we'll get back to that. But so the communications piece, like you said, that's going to be really important. So if you need to clarify anything from the holidays, you need to reschedule anything from the holidays. December was just a tough month, and now you feel like you can move forward, then do that. So that's going to support you in that energy of making those contacts, talking to folks, right? On top of that, we're coming into Uranus direct. Now, let me back up because I didn't explain a lot about what Mercury does. So Mercury rules our communications, how we travel, dealing with travel, which includes cars, airplanes, stuff like that, commerce, shopping, retail, things like that, and mechanics. So
Yeah.
again, travel. So with it going direct, now all those things should be moving forward in a way that's clearer, more precise, all that kind of stuff. All right. Now, like I said, what helps us with that is the planet Uranus is going direct. So again, Uranus is a slower moving planet. It can go retrograde, which means it's moving at a slower pace for several months. So if you were trying to get things off the ground that you really had this great idea for, but you felt like, I don't know where to go, what to do, I'm bumping into walls. I don't know where the opportunities are. I know I need to do this. Well, Uranus going direct is going to say, terrific. Now I'm going to show you what some of those ideas are, but what I need you to do first, and what I would recommend folks do first, is search within and see what they want to change this year. So Uranus being retrograde right now, which means it's not at its full power, it's not, thinking of all those great ideas and taking action on them yet. They're sort of sitting within and trying to review them and feel like what it's about. So Uranus is saying, really think about what you want to change this year. It could be a crazy idea in your mind, which I'm sure it's not, but it may seem too big to you. Starting on January 27th, you'll be able to move those ideas forward, and they won't seem so big and they won't seem so crazy, but they may bump against things that you're either used to or your family's used to or your old job's used to or whatever. So Uranus says, no more of that. We are changing what the perception is out there. So imagine that's all happening the first quarter and really in January. So
Yeah, we're off to a big.
yeah.
Now, what was the date Uranus is going direct? When?
27th, January 27th.
27th. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm writing that one down. So it's so funny. I'm laughing because Mercury, I forgot it was retrograde December because I still have like gifts that have not been opened. There wasn't time to open them for the 2-year-old, for the, so we're going to have a little tiny Christmas in February, I think, because we couldn't quite get our stuff together. But great.
Retrograde and the holidays. Let's be honest, guys. Like the world was in holiday mode this year too, but it made it a little harder to plan.
So the second quarter, when opening the Akashic Records from April to June, it's like I got this big storm warning. And rough weather in spring, and be smart and think crafty or think canny. And I feel like this is kind of weather and kind of, the global changes, but it's also kind of the weather of the mindsets, the weather of how people are interacting. So solution makers are gold. If you're a solution maker, this is your time to shine, or this is your time to really figure out how to get forward in the community and push your business forward or push your message forward. Because we have to let go of old grudges, and we have to help each other. And the language of the solution maker and the peacemaker isn't out there. Right. So if everyone's looking for something to do, right there is an opening. And I also got I pulled some cards too, but I got the image, and so I pulled some cards to see if it validated it as the house is falling down. So we're going to have a few things that we're used to coming apart, and so you still have to stay in the game. You still have to be creative. You still have to help each other, and we all have abilities. The things that are coming, and I can talk a little bit after this, but one of the things that I see coming together are systems and not the economy, but our financial systems coming apart.
Mhm.
How we bank, how we handle money, how we handle credit cards. There's going to be, you're going to start to see some things unroll over those 3 months. And don't panic, but people will panic anyway.
Well, yeah, it's
The
well, I
change.
think part of it is these are things we haven't dealt with before, right? So when they're unknown, we can go, you know what I mean? But if we know, like you're explaining, it's we have to get used to the change and how we do things differently now, right?
Yeah, yeah, and we're going to be okay. The economy is strong. There's money, there's resources, there's abundance, and we forget that because we think it all is added up by on a calculator with dollars. And
Mhm.
so we're going to actually be challenged to look at abundance a different way. So the systems in flux that I felt in the second quarter was the weather, the money changes, not necessarily economy, transportation, because
Mhm. Oh, yep.
with transportation, and I feel like something's slowing down, but some innovation. There's a lot of innovation out there. There's a lot of tech out there that hasn't been recognized or invested in because the old system worked.
Mhm.
And so you're gonna say, oh, where did that tech come from? It's been there all the time, but it was never recognized as being valuable because the old way, like the old gas engines, what's wrong, don't fix what's not working. So we're gonna see that. But
Yeah.
it could be also allegorical that our moving around is going to slow down. Something's going to show up that we can't get around the way. It reminds me of COVID a little bit, where I'm not saying that's COVID, but
No.
we just can't do what we want to do. And there's frustration again, but you got to stay in the game.
Right. Right. I think, yeah, I think we all say COVID and we go, "Woo," you know.
Oh,
But I agree with a lot of you're saying, Nancy. So let me tell you what's going on astrologically. We have on April 1st Mercury retrograde. So like I had mentioned, retrograde planets means they're not at their full power and they're really asking you to go within. So with Mercury going retrograde, it's asking you again to reevaluate how you're communicating, what you're doing with your ideas, things like that. Mercury retrograde is a fast moving planet, so it only lasts for 3 weeks or so. Like, for example, Mercury then goes direct on April 25th. So it's within the same month. The reason why Mercury makes such an impact, which people always say, like, why do why is everything Mercury retrograde's fault? It's like, well, no, it's not Mercury retrograde's fault, but we're so ingrained digitally communication wise, my car, I don't have a key to open the car door anymore. I have the push button, like, or I have whatever. So it's all changing. And if we're not up on that or we're not working with that or making sure that's okay, that will break down. These are new systems, right? So we have that. Um,
I just want to say something, and
yeah.
I want you to, because it's right in with the Mercury thought is, Jose says, I think everything is so confusing, and a lot of things are happening so fast that almost no one knows how to deal with it, or knows how to read the signs.
Right,
Mm.
right. That's a great point, Jose, because let me tell you a little bit about what else is coming up. So then Pluto's going to go retrograde. Now Pluto is the planet, like I mentioned, it's moving into the sign of Aquarius. Aquarius is ruled by Uranus. What that means is it's the rebel. So Pluto's joining up with that rebellious spirit,
Oh,
but
good.
Pluto also sheds bad habits. Pluto brings things to the surface, right? So things start coming out. It is all about us embracing transformation. Okay. So from a global level, when it's direct, when it's moving forward, then we're watching the transformation within the world. Okay. When it's retrograde, we're watching transformation within. So on May 2nd, we're back to going within and seeing what the bad habits we have, what transformations we need to make. And at that time, we may see some things globally too that are quote bad habits. Are we taking care of our people in the world?
Right.
Oh, that's I mean, it's more than a bad habit. I don't want to downplay what's going on with folks, but it is showing like if we just keep turning a blind eye to things, that's not going to work for us anymore. Pluto's like, no, no, no. Here, you got to look at this, right?
Yeah.
And because Aquarius is also very global,
Hmm.
Aquarians want to take care of the world. They want the ideas for the world. Then you yourself have a contribution to make to the world. And during this time, you may be like really called to do it. You may have to evaluate what you need to do to contribute to the world. There could be a lot of like, spiritual awakening during this time for yourself. So right now there's a group in the world called spiritual but not religious. So that's how they're categorizing people who are not any particular religion. Well, that group is growing.
It's,
So
it's
how do
not a
we
Facebook page, guys. Don't look it
no,
up.
no, no, no. Yeah, no, no, no. It's a
Basically
category.
people
It's
who
a
are
category.
spiritual,
Yep.
but they let go
Right.
of
Oh, it
religion.
might be, yeah, it might be a Facebook page, but but my point to that is that we have to deal with religion and spirituality and connections to the spirit world differently, including how you connect. So it may be your own practices. It may be, you learn something new about it, but it's not gonna be able to stay quiet within you anymore is the point.
Yeah.
So, that goes on into the third quarter. So, the summer may be very interesting, right?
Right.
So we have Mercury retrograde and direct in the second quarter. We have Pluto retrograde on May 2nd. And then to round out the end of the quarter on June 29th, Saturn goes retrograde.
Oh, what?
So,
Yeah.
mhm,
Saturn retrograde? Okay, talk to me.
yeah, so Saturn is all our structures in the world. So how I liken it is the old regime in governments. We have that new group that's come in, that's sort of an Aquarian, Uranus. We're doing different things.
Yeah.
This is the old guard, Saturn. Saturn, I call him Father Time. He's the karma master. He's like, hey, what are we doing here? Well, when you have to go retrograde, when it goes retrograde, we are internalizing what is the old guard for us? What do we need to look at? Is
Mhm.
the way that we have our foundation still good? So it's a lot of inner reflection about some major things in your life. How you've kept things the way they are, and is that healthy for you? How have you not touched into your spirituality or your real true self? And how do you talk to people? And maybe you got some tough conversations out there with people because of Mercury retrograde, but sometimes those have to happen in order for growth. So I don't want to make Mercury retrograde or any of these retrogrades seem bad. They're not, they're just a different focus. So
And
that's oh,
needed too. It's in
yeah.
the timing. It's needed.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's not don't panic.
Yeah, it really is one of those like if you've been avoiding taking time for yourself and to get to know yourself, then that you're not going to have a choice anymore. So Aquarians. Oh, so Melissa's an Aquarian. I'll read this one. As an Aquarian, I'm looking forward to being productive and changes personally, but even more in a service mode. Interesting times. I never thought I'd see it in my lifetime. Happy I never gave up on my vision. Yeah, Melissa, these are the times the visions are coming into reality.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you didn't give up either. But that's the thing, we're getting activated. People are getting activated spiritually, and you don't have to be a certain religion. You
I,
can be
yeah.
whatever. So it's more about the humanity of the world, not just, well, I have the right true religion. I have the right. No, it's our humanity and our spirituality and our connectedness. So that's going to be a lot in the second quarter. The other thing I'll just quickly say real quick is that it could also turn into new programs for people, new healthcare, new we help with food scarcity, like those things in the world that we have not fixed yet. We're going to see a lot of new ideas around that. So have
Excited
hope.
for
Keep
that.
having hope, everybody.
Yeah, I'm really excited for that. So jumping into the third quarter, what I was feeling like looking at the through the eyes of allegory was that the weather was lightening up. I feel so good when I go into the summer. I just feel really, really good. It's a time to, it's easier to listen. It's easier to approach things with a gentle touch. Creativity doors are opening to the inventors. Innovation in this quarter is going to be supported. Like when you talked about Uranus, going direct, but I thought, geez, in the third quarter, I'm feeling like how much innovation is going to be supported. And I'm not necessarily talking about all these crazy startups
Right.
with all the crazy money going on, where people are genuinely have a good thing that they're bringing forward that they just need to be funded, or they need to have more people support. This is a team thing more than it's an individual thing, but a lot of individuals have really good ideas. So listen to the peeps around you and see, can I be supportive, or maybe I need to speak up on this idea. But again, I think we're taking the same theme from the second quarter as stepping outside of the expected, exploring new ground. And I also pulled in the power of prayer. We talked about spiritual but not religion. The power of prayer is a request to whoever we think is in the higher power. And so as we say our prayers, let's look at what are we asking for, and let's look at what somebody else is praying for, and we see how can we help each other actualize those prayers. And a big issue in the third quarter is choose love or choose fear. You're going to have to choose love or choose fear. And on the love side is the new ideas, the creativity, the going forward. It's not necessarily, well, do whatever you want. I love you. It's more like, all right, I hear what you're doing. I see what you're doing, but I'm going to bring forward this idea. And that's a loving action. So it's kind of like the warrior of love, the warrior of creativity, and the kind of thing. So what do you got for the third quarter?
Well, I love how you said that. I think it's stirring something in all of us. You know, it's that stirring, it's that calling. So the third quarter, we've got for roughly about a month, July 2nd to August 5th. Oh, excuse me, sorry. I am absolutely wrong about this. Let me start over. Okay. July 2nd, Neptune goes retrograde. And my eyes skipped in it, so it's not about a month. It's longer than that. Neptune goes direct in the fourth quarter in December. So Neptune retrograde starts July 2nd. Why is that important? Neptune is about our spirituality, our art, our creativity, but it's also our escapism. Now, is escapism always healthy? Even if you're doing healthy things, maybe not, because there may be some things you have to deal with. So Neptune retrograde for those last 2 quarters of the year is going to ask you to reevaluate your spirituality and also the things that you are using for coping techniques and why you're using them. So it's not just like, well, I go and I take an art lesson, once a week or whatever, right? Okay, well, is that avoiding like doing something at home, or is it really fulfilling you and helping you be more creative? So it's the things that we're doing we need to evaluate. And there may be things that we give up, there may be things that we start, but it all is around the ethereal, I call it, the spiritual, the poetry, the creativity, all those things we can't necessarily touch, right? So that's important because we're going to come into July 4th, which a lot of people like to have barbecues and drink and things like that. So, and through the rest of the year. So just be careful with what you're using for coping techniques if they're not serving you well. All right. So that's going to come up in the summer. Then we have Mercury retrograde on August 5th. So we're back to another communication reflection. I think what this will also do is, because Neptune's retrograde, if you need to speak to someone about how things are kind of, I might not be dealing with this. Or I might need to deal with this and I need someone's support in order to deal with it, right? So Mercury is going to not only have us look at our communications, but maybe from our own perspective, be able to reach out and speak what we need. Okay,
Yeah.
so even though Neptune's going retrograde, it's still having us go within about what do we need help with? And then Mercury comes along and says, all right, let's talk to the people that we can talk to. Right. It could also delay some of that, but at least it gets the ball moving and thinking.
Yeah.
So in August, the end of August, it goes direct. So again, really quick, Mercury comes in, shakes things up for a hot minute, and then runs out. So, and then, as I mentioned to you earlier, so this is a long time that Uranus has been direct, from January to September, because on September 1st, Uranus is back to retrograde.
Back to retrograde?
Back to retrograde. Yeah, Uranus. So, because Uranus comes in and out of retrograde once or twice a year, could be a little more depending on the year. But with Uranus going retrograde again, it is again, what can you contribute to the collective?
Okay.
Remember, we're coming into now we're coming into a real critical point in the election. It's September. If you're in the US, y'all. So that's something to think about too, is how am I contributing? And not just financially. If you decide to contribute to a cause or whatever, it's not how is my individuality connecting with the group? So
It,
that's the thing. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
it could be as simple as a conversation with somebody. Said, did you think about it like this? Or has this really helped you? But how many people has it hurt? Or, just reality checks.
Reality. Yeah. Yeah, or just this isn't working anymore. So how do we make it better? How do we build a different foundation? So that's why this year, I mean, I'm saying it in a nice way, but you kind of can't get away with your own BS anymore this year. You know, a friend of mine always says like, oh, you know, you can't, sometimes people go wrong because they buy into their own story a little too much, you
Yeah.
know, and I think this year we can't do that. So if we're telling ourselves, well, I can't do that because of this reason, or I can't do that because I don't have the education, or I can't, like the planets are going to say, and the Akashic Records sounds like it's like, really? That's why you can't do it? Really? Because we don't buy that anymore. You're fooling yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that awareness is coming. Mhm.
Yeah. Speaking of the third quarter and some political, I got this hit and just want to play it out here right now that the people who are running in the presidential campaign, there's it's not complete yet. That there's somebody coming that will be very much a leader. It's younger than the candidates were the two big candidates that we're seeing, but on a younger side, a newer platform changes the whole platform of what people are running on.
Mhm.
And so heads up, for don't choose somebody right now in your heart of hearts that I need to have this person. I'm going to just wait.
Mhm.
Because there's somebody in the background. And Mary, do you feel that way? Because
Yeah, I do. I think I think what we see as the election right now is not going to look anything like it's going to actually be. So I agree with you. I think there's another person coming in. I think there's some changes that are happening with people who might be running already, or have said, you know, like not just they're dropping out. There's other things that could happen there. So yeah, it's not going to look like we think it's going to look in the least.
it's
Mm-mm.
going to be a quick, all of a sudden, it's a whole new presidential campaign. It's just weeks from the, or just months from the voting time. And wow, we have to think about this and make up our mind. And I'm kind of feeling excited about it, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And I'm not feeling as bad as I have felt in the past.
Right.
That
I think it's a good person that comes into the stage. So I think that's why we're like, it's good because we feel like it's something that people will come and say, oh my God, we've been waiting for this person, you know, for everybody.
yeah,
Um, yeah, so Melissa actually said that too. She's like, wow, I was feeling this last night, big changes in candidates and younger. Yeah, we definitely are feeling that too. So it's yeah, it's like hold your applause to the end, folks. We're not there yet, you know.
it's not over with. Yeah,
It's not over with. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
So fourth quarter, which is really critical for us this year, right?
Yeah. So going into fourth quarter, so possibly because I brought it up in the third quarter, that's when it's going to happen. But fourth quarter is about becoming clear in your own light. What I mean by clear in your own light is that your own light is your soul. Your own light is you're on the same page with your higher self and becoming clear. What is that? When we're aligned with our higher self, people go, what the heck does that mean? When we're listening to our intuition, when we're listening to those ideas that are coming in that we're not quite comfortable, but we're going to try it out anyways, we can make huge changes in our lives, but also in our world, because things ripple out. Everything we do and say ripples out. And I also see, as we in the country and the world focus, that there's some lights are going to just dawn on Marblehead in the world, in the world community. It was like, oh, is that where we're going? Do we really want to go that way? Or people will speak up who are at that leadership level and say, I think we've done enough of that.
Mhm.
Let's, and some people may fall out of power in that time because it's time. Um, but every breakthrough in the fourth quarter is for everyone.
Yeah.
It's, so you could somebody, oh, he finally made that breakthrough and he's this and he's that's great, that's great. It's like, no, the breakthrough is going to be for everyone, because I think you probably could talk about that. But I feel like we've been cooking new technology all year, medical, transportation, and industry. In this quarter, you're really going to, if you didn't see it the third quarter, you're going to see it in this quarter. If it was, all the hype on the AI, artificial intelligence, well, that was kind of more hype than thing. But these really significant things are going to show up. And so take a breath, guys. I feel like light, energy, electricity, innovations, and potential change. I feel like, remember the whole breakthrough with fusion energy, and then we didn't hear anything about it. We're going to hear a lot about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're really going to have and it's going to put a whole new um renewable energy. It's going to put a whole new twist to that, and I'm really excited. And it's not toxic. is what I'm getting, is what I'm feeling. It's healthy and it's for everyone.
Innovative. Yep. Yeah.
So I see corporations breaking down and because they can't get out of their own way to move forward. So those things are going to be falling apart. So if you're working for a big corporation, heads up, just pay attention to what they're saying, what they're doing. And if they're doing weird stuff, okay, where do you want to be if they fall apart? Or if they don't so we're going to look at some of the oil companies, for gas companies, as a matter of fact, some of them are going to be changing the product that they offer.
Mhm.
So some of them are just going to fall apart. It depends. But this is a time to sit quiet and empty, to not have an expectation. Don't sit quietly and wait for your turn or wait for your thing to happen. Just sit quietly and watch. Remember, be crafty and be canny, because we can get through this. New systems are coming into place. But if you keep expecting the thing that you're always expecting, then you're going to be caught unawares, is what
Oh,
I'm.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. And part of that is with what Nancy was talking about, I feel like falls a bit under Uranus retrograde when I mentioned in the last quarter, because those ideas that need reworking, retooling to come back out. Like I would say something like the Apple virtual reality thing will get retooled around that time. Things like that that need to be kind of reworked. Like AI may also be retooled, but to
Yeah.
have more of a like a there's people involved. It's not just technology. And I
Yeah.
think that's one of the places that we're going. So what's going to be really interesting for this election is two things. On October 10th, Pluto moves in direct, which will means it's Pluto in Aquarius, moving direct. And then on no October 9th, a couple of days before, we have Jupiter going retrograde. So we may find that we're going to hear stuff about maybe money, someone runs out of money, there's a money issue that's happening with the election. It's going to be in Gemini, so people are really going to be looking to like tug on your heartstrings for money. So make sure to research that kind of stuff, because we also may find that those facts that are coming in, they're not quite right on how they're doing it. So that's going to be very interesting for some of the candidates. Again, if we notice that there's been a breakthrough with someone different, we may be moving our money towards them too. So because Jupiter rules like abundance and money and growth and expansion. So if it's retrograde, it's saying, again, are we using that growth from within? Are we using abundance? Do we understand our abundance? Do we know how we can create abundance in our life? I think it's some of our own reflection on what is our self-esteem around that. So yeah, so we're gonna hear some of that in the last quarter of the year. And then with Pluto going direct, it's gonna be one of those things where stuff is gonna come flying out that we're gonna be a little like, oh, wait a minute, is that how is that how we're doing that? Wait, is that we don't want to do it that way. So it's going to say, we may cut people out. Like, so here's an example. Someone's at a conference and they're talking and they're filming them talking and they feel like what they're saying isn't true or whatever. They'll cut away from them. They're not going to let misinformation maybe be out there as much. Things like that.
Love that. I love
Yeah.
that.
So things are going to pop up, right? We also have Saturn going direct November 15th. So we may see some of those structures really try to come back into play and not be able to. Because Saturn might say, well, we needed to build a new foundation anyway, so we blew everything up for a while. Um, I mean, if I have to, and I am predicting, we're going to have something new that's going to come in for the election, and then how we're running things are going to be different. How we're, maybe communicating with, the world. We may be online more, digital, things like that from the election perspective, if
Mhm,
you understand what
mhm,
I mean. So
mhm.
some of that's going to change. We have Mercury going direct, retrograde again, but luckily it comes back on December 15th to direct. So on November 25th, Mercury goes retrograde. It's before Christmas, it goes direct. So this holiday season, I don't want to just mention Christmas, holiday season will be one of those little bit, Thanksgiving may be a little bit like, ooh, what are we doing this year? Where, later December holidays will be a little bit easier. But what I would recommend with that also is that if you're putting money aside for trips, for gifts, for things in the later half of the year, I would definitely start putting that away more in the earlier half of the year. Because if you
Oops.
get caught with a bill or something that, you know, you have to pay for, then you have stuff put aside so you're not jammed up in the last half of the last quarter of the year. So yeah, save your money early. Save your money early. That's going to be really important because the last quarter of the year, money might be going out a little bit too much. Um, and then also we have Neptune going direct at the beginning. Actually, your birthday, Nancy, is going to go direct on your birthday, December 7th.
Neptune's going direct on December 7th.
On December 7th. So basically what that means is that all those things that you were reflecting on, like how do I escape? Is this a good thing for me to be escaping in? You could have new habits that now that it's direct, you're going to really fly with. So for example, you're like, oh, I really want to learn how to lift weights, right? That's going to take me a while. So in December, you may feel like you're off and running because that's your coping mechanism, or
Okay.
I started drawing and now I'm really kind of getting that down because I've been practicing that coping technique, or I really am looking back at what I had for coping techniques and they're done now. I'm all done with them. I've moved forward. So there's a lot of moving parts at the last quarter of the year. But what I would say kind of like an overall theme is um really trust that instinct, because your voice is going to be the best voice, because not everybody's telling the truth. I know someone mentioned that earlier. um not everybody's telling the truth. So if your gut says mm-mm, then trust that.
That's your gut.
That's the best. And I know that that's not like, I had someone say to me the other day, she's like, "Oh, I don't know, this person, I feel like something's off." I'm like, then trust that. Because
Yeah.
you're trying to talk yourself out of it. This is a lot of the last quarter energy for this year. You're going to start trying to talk yourself out of it. Trust that.
Yeah.
Trust.
A lot of mirrors, a lot of smoke. When things, systems, politics, money are in flux, people come out with smoke and mirrors like nobody's business. And it's their job to confuse us so they can get the best that they can out of whatever they want to get money out of, or your time or your attention. So you got to go by your gut.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally agree.
But
And I think,
yeah.
oh, go ahead. I'm
Well,
sorry.
I mean, this start now developing your intuition.
Yeah.
Really get in. How does my intuition working? How does it talk to me? What's going on? And if you feel like something's wrong, but you can't quite logic it out, just stop. I would love to see people kind of just not make up their minds and say it's not A or B. It's Monty Hall and all the doors. Is it behind door number one, door number two? And you can sit there and you can say it's no doors.
Of course. Yeah. Nope. I'm just gonna sit here right now and that's it. Yeah. And sometimes pausing and regrouping is the best thing you can ever do. It really is. Even if you take a couple of extra days and pause and regroup, you're good. So I think that I love, Nancy, how you're saying don't panic. It's just sometimes it doesn't happen as quickly as we want it to. It may take a little extra time. So
It's
ride the wave a little, ride the wave.
Ride the way. Yeah. So I had some big hits on different aspects, and I would love, give you some of the thoughts, and Mary, if you want to play into this or just nail things for time, I or just say, I don't think that's going to happen this year. That'll be probably later on. But innovations was a big thing that I kept picking up on. And in the medical industry, where innovations on alternative treatments, the pharmaceuticals have been so big in the treatment, and it's going to wane away. Maybe it's going to start in 24 and then wane away more in 25. But there's cures or effective treatments that are not necessarily what they are right now. And alternative medicines are coming in and being recognized. But they also think, I see things being just set aside, because you could get a good pharmaceutical, and I'm not talking bad about pharma, because there's some really amazing things in pharma that are helping, but some of the pharma is getting really pushed and experimented on stuff. And some of them, it's okay to set it aside if it's not working. And we vote with our dollars. We vote with our, yes, I'm going to take that drug. No, I'm not going to take that drug. Statins are, I think, an example where
Mhm.
people are just really, statin is making me worse than the fear that I might have a stroke. So, and so now the pressure of statins isn't as big as it used to be. But with health also is insurance, and how we fund our health, taking care of ourselves. And I feel changes in the plans starting to really get some good innovative healthcare changes, not necessarily completely implemented, but the implementation might come in 2025. But there's some really new thinking coming up, but that's kind of how I was feeling. Hey, how do you feel about that? You think of
Well, I think there's 2 places that's really hitting is with Pluto and, Aquarius. So that's all the innovation. And Pluto's like, "All right, let's look at that." So is that like an old way of thinking? Is that like, are you guys doing that because that's what we used to do all the time? Or are you doing that so you can make sure you make the most money possible, but you're not helping the people? Because Pluto's not gonna let that happen. So a lot of, and we've got a lot of movement here. At one point, Pluto is moving forward right now. It's going to go retrograde in May. So it might be we see forward effort and then people are pausing.
Mhm,
It's like,
mhm.
well, I thought they were going to prove that. So for example, I know a big thing is alternative therapies being approved by insurance. And it's like, so we may start getting there and then it pauses and we're like, come on, and then once Pluto goes direct, then we get it approved. So that's stuff that you might see and get frustrated with. So it's a lot of patience this year because we will see stops and starts with that.
Patience, but also hanging in there.
Right.
Because it stops or because there's a pause doesn't mean it's not going to happen.
Right.
And you need to hang in there so you make sure that when the pause is over, whoosh,
Right. Right. So yeah, it's very much a don't give up, very much a, you have to see it through to the end. And sometimes the end isn't the end, you know?
yeah.
So it's just saying this is on a pause. This is on a snooze, which is fine. So I think, yeah, a lot of that, the innovation, healthcare also. Um, I feel like we've picked up on, cures for things, but also just different ways to manage like what we new mental health medicines are coming out. There's other types of medicines that are coming out that we're and we want, people want to get them to people. I know, like you said, pharma can be great in a lot of ways, but I think there's a lot of, how do we get medicines to folks that are not as well off or are in different communities, so I think those things are going to be coming out much more this year. So really it's like I think everybody's fed up with the old system. So what do we need to do to make that system better? And so this year we're not going to necessarily throw out the system completely, but we've got to change it.
Right. Right.
So, we healthcare insurance companies, yep, they're not going anywhere, but how do we manage them? How do we work with them? What they charge, all that, that's where you're going to see you
Yeah.
know, the
Yeah.
change. And
Yeah.
I think, yeah, so Pluto really being as strong as it is this year, we have a lot of energy. And really, we've been building up to this. We've been building up to all of these changes. And I think we saw it right before the pandemic. I think a lot happened during the pandemic that was definitely showed us we needed to change things. Well, now it's coming to fruition. So
Yeah.
that's why, we're talking about you have to have patience and hang in there because it may take 3 or 4 years before something changes. But maybe not. But I'm saying like there may be things that we know that have been presented out there that we're like, oh God, that's never going to change. Well, slow and steady, everyone.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is a slow and steady year. We're
Yeah.
not going to give up.
Yeah, don't please, because it's creative. Everyone has to come to the table and say their piece so that it continues. So the next innovations were in technology, industry, and transportation, and breaking through the energy concepts.
Mhm.
And I talked about that a little bit, like fission. Discoveries and developments are very the science field are very, very important. And it's actually I had a little snapshot of the electric car being replaced, that the electric car isn't necessarily the solution. There's another one. And like we said, things take time, but it was just went through my head and I'm like, I'm sharing it with you guys. It's kind of a space age renewable energy kind of thing. It's like and it restores itself. It doesn't burn out. And
Yeah.
what on earth that could be? It's going to affect home heating, cooling, and all the industries, transportation, all of them. So the industry we've focused on so long has been the tech
Right.
and AI, and now we're going to go back to how we move. So,
Mhm.
anyways, that was that, and then also, yeah, we talked a little bit about the presidential campaign, so I don't need to go back. There is it's a surprising win. It's jaw dropping. It's not expecting. It's going to be fun to watch.
Mhm.
What I just felt that run through me, and I don't want to talk about any of the other. I mean, you can say whatever you want, Mary, but I don't want to talk about what's not working. Let's kind of go for what is working.
I
Um,
agree.
and money stuff, the dollar bill, the currencies, there's something changing there. But relax, economy's okay. I see some banks closing, and usually that's a bad sign, but I don't think this is going to be a bad sign. It's just, again, the banking system is changing, and how things are moving, and so it makes sense to close some of these banks, or it's going to make um banking is a business. You know, we forget about that, and hold steady. It's going to work out. But I feel like a tremendous amount of innovative thinking coming in June, July, and August. There was the planets we're talking about that around money and around resources. Money is so important. How we exchange things, and so it's going to hit people in their homes. Like, wait a minute, kind of thing. So bartering may go up.
I mean, bartering's so fun. I love doing that.
Yeah.
So I think it's, the way of the old regime is not because,
Mm.
you ever work somewhere and they say, well, that's the way we've always done it, right? Or just wherever you are. Well, that's what's worked before. Well, none of that's working anymore.
Yeah.
So a lot of that is Neptune's influence because Neptune does influence some of the social systems we believe in. So like hospitals and like those kind of social structures. So Neptune also being a player this year is saying we need to be creative on how we handle these things that we need to fix within society. So that's part of Neptune's influence. And then again, Pluto and Aquarius, because Aquarius is their innovation, their electricity, their all of that, renewable energy, all of that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
So that's why I think you're getting all this like unearthing because, the foundation isn't just being shaken. Like people are running onto the foundation with like, jackhammers and they're breaking it. That's, there's no, we've tried to be nice. We've tried to get our point across. Now people are going to be like, I'm not predicting violence, guys. I don't mean that, but I am seeing people being, protests. You might see more of them. People speaking out more. You're going to probably see more of that. People are fed up.
Yeah, that's what I was seeing, the Me Too movement coming back. Women's rights activists are getting louder and louder on reproductive issues.
Yep.
And LGB, I can't get all the letters right.
LGBTQIA plus, I believe.
Is going to connect with the woman's reproductive and the women's rights. And it's going to be really interesting. All races of women in all choice molds are going to be united under this issue, because it's really gotten out of control. And there are so many more people that have voices that are going to start speaking up. And not quite sure when that's going to happen. If it's just going to kind of build a crescendo and just build and build. So but I wanted to go back to, that's very important to talk about, but I also want to go back to something that I saw, Mary, that I'm not sure where to put this or what to think about it is, the US has to focus on keeping the US stable. The world views, the wars, they can't be stabilized with money, and there's a drain. So the more money is going to stay in the country, and it has to happen. And I'm thinking, am I just October, November, December is about stabilizing the country? And I was like, am I off the wall on this, or
No, so this has to do with Saturn. Saturn has a lot to do with our structures, right? But they
yeah.
have to do with like all our structures, like so political structures, like the old way of doing things. So just to give you, so Saturn goes retrograde in the end of June. So everybody has to go back and look at things. What are our systems around this stuff? And then when it goes direct in November, then you're going to see all of those changes, but Saturn is like, oh, I want to keep everything. This is the foundation we built on. We need
Right.
this foundation in order for things to happen. But like I said, people are like, I think the foundation needs to be reinforced or rebuilt or whatever it is. So that's Saturn coming in and saying, we're not doing that. A lot of talk starting in July about those structures, financial, the banks closed, and stuff like that. Yep, all of that's there.
Right there. What I was going back to what we said is, you're talking about where it's the trend is spiritual, not religious.
Yep.
And we have a few religious wars going on. And I feel, as I was watching this and thinking about it, if the trend is spiritual, not religious, the answer isn't this one's right or that one's right. It's how is this affecting humanity? And we're gonna that third conversation coming to the table. There's no right or wrong. You're not going to answer that problem, and it's going to be some dramatic statements and dramatic things being said. And
Oh, totally. Yeah. And I think what you're going to see is one thing I didn't mention, I forgot to mention. So this is good that this happened this way. Um, Mars is going to go retrograde in December also. So Mars is a planet of action and movement, making things happen, all that kind of stuff. So I think though, and it's also the war and aggression planet. So as you talked about wars and things like that, and that's where we're going to start to see like, I don't know if this is what we need to continue to do. Like, what are we doing? Like, plus you're also saying keeping the money here, stuff like that. When Mars, we're really going to see that at the end of next year. And my psychic sense is we're going to see it more in 2025.
okay, yeah,
Where that, I mean, I think we have times that, but then I think we're really pulling things back in 2025 to say, we need to take care of the world. I understand, but we have some problems here that folks need
yeah,
to get the care
yeah,
here too. So we have to change those programs. So that's why when Mars goes retrograde, it's like, well, what are we fighting over? Like, what are we really fighting over here?
yeah,
Like,
and
what is the
yeah.
aggression here? You
What
know
do
what
we
I mean?
and then and redefining it, and then having a group of people come forward. We're redefining this. We're done with this. This
Right.
is we're just this is going to go into the museum, and it's not going to be how we live anymore. And but people have to come together to find their voices and say those things and have that power.
Right.
Um, so
Right.
that's going to be tricky. Social issues. I want in closing. There was actually one question I wanted to go back to that, but I wanted to finish because I have this on my mind. The social issues with the resurgence of activists and and uh, and combining the activists who understand that there is a need for change and that kind of thing. But I have to bring up the immigration issue. I think I brought it up to you privately, is due to the climate change and people having to literally leave their countries, and also the political changes. We're not really addressing why there's so many immigrants. I really always felt that they were um, not immigrants, but they were refugees. So we're going to see a lot more refugees this year. It's going to keep picking up 25, 26. So we're going to have to really address this. If you like, for instance, if there's an island out in the middle of nowhere and there's 1.5 million people lived on that island, but that island is no longer habitable, do we let those people sink into the ocean, or do we put them somewhere else so they can start again with their communities and their lives? And I feel like the resources question and the people question are going to collide, and we got to redefine. And so,
We see systems right now getting strained to the max. We have folks that are here that we're trying to care for. And so this is where I'm talking about the humanity piece of all this.
yeah,
Because we're all connected as human beings. We may be from different parts of the world, but we're all connected as human beings. So it's that evolution. This really is a year for evolution. How do we support people who may not be from here? We don't know, like how to communicate sometimes. We're gonna have to figure that out. There's a lot that I
yeah,
can't imagine coming to a new country, not really knowing the language and being frightened. I mean, I think that's what a lot of people are doing. So it may be that, okay, we do different things with folks that are first coming to this country, and there's a different process. And I'm saying a good process, a process to kind of set people up to be ready to live here and contribute and all that kind of stuff. So I think that's what's going to be looked at is, here's the problem. Let's do it differently so folks can feel a part of humanity.
yeah,
And that's really where I think there's going to be a lot of like, oh my God, we really used to do that. Like, I know there's parts of history that we kind of go, oh, right. I think we're sort of back in that place again where we're going to look back in years and go, oh, did we really? Oh
yeah.
God, how do we,
Well,
so that's a lot of the thoughts that are going to be coming up. So think about it this way, guys. And again, this is a little bit psychic too, is that, we've kind of gone so far to the other side where we've lost a good, like a chunk of how we look at people, you know, that it has to come back. Like we've experimented on this side of being selfish and self-centered and whatever you know so now what are we doing to make it better? So I guess one of the things I'll say is not to be um but put up or shut up, guys. Like if you're like spiritual and you're like, we need to help take care of people, then let's come up with some ideas. Not just that we should, they shouldn't be doing this. This shouldn't happen. That okay, what's the idea then?
Yeah,
Because yeah, you're right. We shouldn't be doing XYZ. So what we need an alternative, and it's out there. You have it in you. You have something in you that you can contribute.
absolutely. I
So
think that.
that's really what it's about is see this year I think it's more about we had that time before where we just didn't we said whatever we wanted, we did whatever we want things. Now like the world is like I can't do this anymore.
Right.
Human beings can't do this anymore. So how do we turn the tide? And that's going to be our own personal responsibility.
Yeah, and taking a look at the issues honestly. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
what really is going on here, and what and taking a lift. I always call it in the car. Lift the hood and what's going on in that engine, because all you're doing is complaining about the noise.
Right.
And
Yes. Perfect. Yeah.
no, so so that's kind of I just feel like South America keeps coming up in my work, and as I look at the world, South America has been the quiet rebel, or the bad kid that's quiet. I feel like we're at the end of this, those mystery novels, and you think you know what's going to happen, and then there's a huge twist that comes. You go, oh my god! And so enemies become friends, and then you realize who the real enemy is, and that's how I feel about South America. So, where
Yeah.
there's something, and I wish I could say more about it because it's just not totally clear yet.
Right.
Uh,
Right. I think a lot of it is how can I want to say this right? How we understand other country. Like, you go to visit another country and you're like, oh, we don't do that in America. We do that. So I think it's a lot of ignorance. It's a lot of ignorance.
a lot of
And so folks that are in South America or it's there's a lot there that if we sort of we stopped and listened, I think we'd learn more about it. But we just make a lot of assumptions in this world about people. Um oh, Wendy just asked if we can access it afterwards. Yeah, it's recording.
it
So
is.
we'll yeah.
Yeah. It's
But go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Wendy made a great comment too. She said it's good to hear you tackling serious issues that affect the world. Well done. No spiritual bypassing here. This is about true spirituality, and I want to thank her for saying that comment. Because it's what we're doing. It's really hard to do. It's not really hard, but it is. You gotta stay focused. But yes, and the talk will be on Angelscape's podcast. So if you look up the podcast, it'll take probably next week sometime. But this talk is Facebook keeps it on the page.
Mhm.
You're seeing it now. It'll go unlive, and then you can watch it then.
Watch
There,
it.
there's a question by Jose, brought a really good question, Mary, and I think we both need to answer this. How do you deal with your intuition versus what you think is correct to do versus what you wish versus what the signs you see appearing to you? I can totally see that vortex of confusion happening for
Sure.
everyone. So good question.
Well, here's one thing I'll tackle with this. I think we do two things with signs. One of them is we ignore them, which, um so here's an example. And I'm laughing when I say this. It's a very simple example. So I know I should not date that person. I know it. In my bones, I'm like, this is a bad idea. And sometimes I like bad ideas, guys. You know what I mean? So like my intuition has screamed at me saying, yeah, you don't want to do this. And I'm like, yeah, but they just texted me. And I said, if they texted me in the next hour, that was going to be my sign. I should date them. Like, so sometimes we talk ourselves into those signs. Mhm.
Yeah.
Sometimes we just don't see what's right in front of us either. And so that is, I think the more that you trust yourself and you say, wow, that sign was for me, that sign was for me, then trust that. You know what I mean? Whether or not it was for you, then you interpreted it and it is a sign that was for you. Do you see what I'm saying? So you don't have to question like, well, was that sign for me? You saw it, you acknowledged it. That sign was for you, period. End of story. It's the doubt and it's the not trusting, I think, that gets us in trouble. Like if I listen to my intuition and decide not to go out with someone who's no good for me, I'm saving myself a lot of pain and heartache,
You
you know.
sure are.
But
Yeah.
it's also like in my head, I'm like, Yeah, but like, I know it's fine. It's gonna be fine. It's not gonna be fine, guys. And I didn't listen to what I did, what I chose. So I think that's part of it is saying, "Mm, I know that's really not a good thing to do." And now if you make the choice to do it, then,
Yeah.
you got something you've learned there, I'll tell you.
Right there, right
You
there.
know?
And you're talking so much about, you got the physical juices going, you got the desire, the want is there, and you know, but
Yeah.
the intuition is a soft, quiet voice that's pervasive, and it's not going to agree with you. It's going to tell you something else. And if you're having a conflict with your intuition and what you really want, stop. Just put the brakes on and dive in a little deeper. Why do I want this? Why do I think this is so important to me? And what do I think this is going to give me? And use your what I call it your clairvoyant gift. And I people don't think of using it this way, is open up your third eye and imagine I'm going to go out with this person and we're going to have a great time. And then the week after, we're going to have a great time. And then 3 months later, I'm going to be out $50,000 and I'm going to be alone and crying. So that you just used your clairvoyance. And then make a picture of, I'm going to go out with them, then I'm going to not go out with them, and I'm going to look at what my life's going to look like without them. And then all of a sudden, your intuition will say, and there's a new guy there waiting, but you're not going to see him if you go out with this woman or whoever. There's a new person there that you're not going to know if you stick with this one. So kind of thing. So if the sign was the text and he texted you or she texted you, and that's the sign, what does the text say? When did it come? What is the attitude with the text? So put your brakes on and don't test the universe, because they're going to test you right back.
They will. You're right. They will. And then Wendy wrote, "Does this guy have spirituality?" Yeah, they can have spirituality, but they're still not really. My so here's the thing. I think part of my own inner work is to being able to like say, okay, now my intuition's told me this and I can feel this. So why am I not trusting what I'm feeling? Like why am I questioning that? And see, like if it's intuition, it's just real factual. It's not emotional. So
Yeah.
like if I'm tuning into like, all right, do I want to go do that? And I feel like, yeah, you can do this. Intuition, right? I mean, it's factual. Whereas like sometimes my own voice in there is like, yeah, but if you do this and then this will happen, that's not intuition.
Yeah.
That's not it. That's you in your head, which is also very important. But like, what I've found in my intuition, it's very it's factual. Like, okay, that wasn't a good idea. And that's it. It's not like I'm berating like the intuition's like, well, learn something from that, you
So
know?
what you're saying is very cool, is your intuition has a specific voice, a specific cadence, and a specific, and so when you finally calm down enough to get that cadence and that voice going, you're like, okay, sorry, I didn't listen to you. But we all have our intuition, all has that. We know
Right.
that it's
No.
talking up a storm here, and and we know that we're listening or know that we're not listening, and we know we're in our heads. There's a thing called bonding patterns and desire and addictions, and you want to repeat the bonding patterns because you had them when you were a little kid or whatever, and but maybe what you had as a little kid isn't going to suit you right now, and those bonding patterns are screaming at you, and it's so hard to not listen to them and think that this is your highest and best talking to you and you should listen to it. And what if you don't listen to it? You could be wrong. If it's meant for you, I always like this songs. There's so many songs that say, if it's meant for you, it'll come back for you. And then if it's meant for you, let it show up a few times. Let it talk to you. And we can feel really, really good about something and it can be bad for us. But the thing with feeling good with your intuition is a sense of well-being, like this is so right.
Mhm.
I feel solid within myself. I feel grounded. I feel honored. I feel sovereign. But if it feels really great and you're flying at 90 miles an hour and the tires aren't hitting the road, you got to take a look at that feeling and what is that feeling telling you? And I don't know, but it's not just relationships. It's
Oh, it's
everything.
everything. It's everything. So Jose said, I'm sorry, Wendy wrote, does this guy have spirituality? Wendy, I thought you were talking about me and the person I was thinking about dating. And then Jose said, no, I don't, or I think, or no, the point, I think I'm able to understand and read the signs in the correct way. I'm just a guy that tries to follow. His intuition and think a little deeper because it said fall. I think follow his intuition. Well, that's it. It's like you have to figure out what the intuition is. Your intuition isn't gonna tell you like, "Hey, stupid, that was a great idea." Your intuition doesn't do that. Like, it just doesn't. Your intuition's I mean, for me, my intuition's very like, just, are it didn't go well. So maybe we shouldn't do that again. It's very factual. I'm like, okay, yeah, you're right. We shouldn't have. You're right. We shouldn't have done that. So I think some of the signs are really just really looking at them and making a decision to follow through so you can trust that intuition.
Yeah.
Once you're going against yourself, then that's where we run into problems because then you're like, well, that went wrong. Well, it's like you went against your intuition. Oh, here's the other piece I'll tell. I think, Nancy, this might be a good, an interesting conversation, which is sometimes we get into situations and it's not about us. It's about the other person.
Yeah.
So yeah, we might have come out with a little bit of like a lesson learned, but maybe that other person needed the experience so they could deal with what they need to deal with. So if we're all interconnected, that's what we're supposed to be doing is helping each other. And as we grow, those type of hurtful situations shouldn't be as much, but sometimes our role is to for growth for everybody, not just you. So if something's come up that's like that didn't go quite right, well, if the other person has done some of their work, they're going to realize like, well, gee, I should not do that. Maybe I need to work on this. But
Yeah.
it's not just about us, or maybe it's not about us at all. We're
Right.
just part of we're the player in the story. Um,
Which
you know,
doesn't stay in a bad situation because you're helping the other person. It
oh
actually
no. Mm-mm.
it means, well, I learned something, they're learning something, and did we learn enough here? But yeah, no, the intuition is a funny thing. I have my intuition, then I go to my guides, and I'll have conversations with my guides and my soul, and I'll say, and then they have said to me many times, okay, if you really want to try and do that, go ahead. I
Yeah.
I'm like, whatever they say,
Factual.
I go, oh,
Factual.
wait a
All
minute. It's like,
right. Right? They're not like giving you any emotion. They're like, all right, if you want to try it, go ahead. That's it. It's like, wait a minute. Why are you guys being so calm about this? But
and is this a big lesson that you're holding on and getting ready for me to learn? A big lesson? Can we skip
yeah.
it? But
Yeah, no, and that's it. It's like if we say no, then we've learned a lesson. We're good.
yeah,
But
yeah. So
yeah,
so, but
I
it's a journey. It's a personal journey that you keep having to try and try. I always when people are just learning their intuition. I say start on the small things.
yeah.
Like you need a pair of shoes. So which store do I go to? And learn some tools that your body talks. Your body doesn't lie to you. Um,
Mm-mm,
you
mm-mm.
dying to go buy that $300 pair of shoes because they look so swank and everything, and your feet are hurting, your body's, so you could actually ask your body, how do you feel about this? And your body will show you one way or the other. One somebody taught me this years ago, and I actually try. I stand on both my feet, shoulder distance apart. And if it's good for me, I will sway forward. Is it bad for me? I'll sway backwards,
Yeah,
because sometimes I get so into my head and I can't even imagine. So if you're holding that $300 pair of shoes, let your body either sway forward or sway back and say, this is good, or no, this is no good. This isn't going to get you what you think. And
right. It's
thing.
true. So yeah, and even sometimes, if you're holding the pair of shoes, you're like, all right, they're $300 pair of shoes, and you can feel your body's like, mm. There's some reason, like, well, what is that? Are you just worried that you can't pay for them? Are you worried? And sometimes it's like, no, I just know they're not going to be that comfortable. Then put the shoes back.
Yeah.
I tried them on, they don't feel good, but they're $300 shoes and I've wanted them. Maybe I should just buy them and get used to them. Put the shoes back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Body's telling you no. So,
I know that. I mean, I bought my daughter a $300 pair of shoes for her wedding, and they were exactly what she wanted. They were exactly the color that she wanted. She wore them on her wedding for 2 hours and never wore them again. And I'm like, but she got her wedding shoes and they were sapphire blue and all that kind of thing. But so your unconscious and subconscious mind, they know that you want to have the trip, you want to do the thing, but those shoes are in a box still, and 3 kids later, I don't think they're coming out.
they're good to look at on an anniversary and then they get put back. That's about it. But that's the thing. And Jose said he was replying to Wendy and Jose, your English is great. So don't worry about that. I thought it was a typo because I follow the intuition. I typo stuff all the time. You're great, Jose. But that's the thing. I think the intuition is, I'll tell you guys another funny quick story. So I'm in New Orleans and I'm walking down the street and this guy stops me and he's talking to me about my hair. And then he was like, "Hey, do you want to go hang out? Like, do you want to go do something?" And I looked right away, my intuition, everything in my body went, "You, sir, are not a good idea."
Oh,
And I looked at him and I said, "I'm really sorry, but I can't." I said, "I'm really sorry, but I appreciate." He's like, "Are you sure?" And I'm like, I'm sure, but thank you." But my into right away, I was like, "You, sir, are not a good idea."
yeah.
And I said, "Have a good day." And we walked, we separated and that was it. So sometimes you like your body's like telling you, like, no, no, hey, who knows? It could have been fun, but I wasn't willing to find out. And you know what I mean? I wasn't willing to figure out what was gonna happen. Was this gonna be okay? Whatever.
No, you don't. You get it that clear, you know it's not gonna be okay.
Automatic,
Whichever not okay it is, it's just not gonna be okay.
just not okay. Mhm.
It just it is confusing and it's subtle that sometimes you miss the subtleties. And so it's a matter of practicing it on the unimportant or the minor things. And so when the big things come up, you're like, all right,
Yeah.
my team is, let's go,
Right. I do it for stuff like parking spaces. So I know I'm gonna go drive somewhere and I'll be like, all right, I'm gonna get a parking space in the first row, in the second row, like in front of this store or that store. Like so I'll play with it that way. Or if I'm waiting in line for something, sometimes I'll do like if I have a number that's gonna be called and I try not to look, I'll be like, all right, I'm gonna be called I'll be number 5. Or I'll take 10 minutes for them to call me. Like I tune in and do stuff like that if when we talk about the unimportant stuff, because if you think I'm going to get, I'm number 5 in line, they call me at number 6, nothing, I mean, big deal. There's nothing riding on that.
yeah, yeah.
But you use situations like that for your intuition and see,
So
like, oh, okay,
the risk isn't there, but the practice is there.
there.
I would- in the day in the especially when I had my corporate job, I would, what's today going to bring me? And I would just sort of go it allegorically. I didn't say, well, she's going to do this and she's going to say that. It's like you're going to hit, right around 3 o'clock is going to be a bump, or that report, and you do blah blah blah. And I would start with a feeling of I got to pay attention to something. I get to my office and look at my to-do list that I prepared the night before, and I'll just look at it, and my subconscious mind will rearrange the whole list.
Oh yeah, there you go.
So I started paying attention to rearranging my list, and I would move a priority. And this happened one time, I was blown away. I moved a priority that I thought was small and insignificant that was at the bottom. I moved it to number 1, got it done by 10 o'clock that morning. Boom, it's done. Didn't hurt any of the other priorities. So there was done. And then I went on to my next thing. I get a call at 11 o'clock. Did you do the thing yet? I need it right now. Can you just stop everything and do it? I said, oh, I got it right here. And I emailed it off, and it's like, whoa. So it's shamanically, it's called meeting your day upriver. And you meet your day, you meet your project, you meet your thing upriver. Like if I go into a party, what am I going to see at this party? What am I going to experience at this party? Do I think I want to leave early, or is there going to, or something, or am I going to like this movie? And I love watching movies. You say, who did it movies? And I'm like going to say, that's the one that did it. And then if I'm wrong, I go, ah. Or if I'm right, I go, see, I told you that was the one that did it. But
Yeah, I mean, these are things that you can practice and like you said, low risk. So you can kind of play with that. But I love that idea of watching the movies and the whodunits and stuff like that. But and here's the other thing I'll just say to you guys about intuition that I find sometimes your intuition comes in and it doesn't make any sense. So it reminded me when you were telling your story, Nancy, like she was like, "Oh, I got to move this up to the top." I don't know why, but I got to move it up to the top, right? So sometimes you don't have an explanation on why you're getting that intuition until it happens and you have the clarity afterwards. So like Nancy, like you said, "Oh, I just did it," and then they call and said, "I need it right away," and you were like, "Mm, there you go." So, but it was if you hadn't followed that, then you would have been scrambling.
and I wouldn't have followed it if I hadn't been practicing using my intuition.
Yeah.
I
So
had months and months of practicing my intuition before I got to that point. So, but
yeah, it's like any skill, you're not gonna have the best time running a marathon necessarily the first time. You're not gonna have the best time writing a poem the first time. The first time you do your intuition, it may be off, but it's a skill. And the more that we can recognize it and understand that language, because we're really trying to understand another language, even though it's a spiritual language, that's where you have to get that practice. And so like, you can't speak Spanish right out of the gate, right? I'm sure Jose, when he was saying my English wasn't so good, I'm sure it was great. And you practiced that, Jose. So you got better at it. The intuition is the same exact thing. You're not going to come out of the gate doing it perfectly the first time. You're just not. So accept that you're going to grow into it and take the practice. Like you said, Nancy, that would have never happened if you hadn't been practicing. So there you go.
Yes, it is. So we're almost done. We're almost finished with our time slot. I think maybe we're a little bit over, but I'm just seeing if anybody has some thoughts. Melissa says, I found if I second guess my body's response, it goes haywire. In other words, it doesn't work accurately. So if you're ignoring your signs, your body's language, and your body says, oh, you're ignoring me. Well, let me show you this. I think that's what you're asking me. And then she said, she goes, I love the movie test. It's so fun to hear others that are doing it too. Kind of thing.
Great. They're fun tests. Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm glad we're talking about this intuition, because this is a really big piece of it's going to fit into what's happening in 2024, because it is going to be confusing this year. We thought last year was confusing. We thought COVID time was confusing. This is right up there with all of that. And your intuition is going to be your best friend, and your intuition and your guides. Your intuition will lead you to your guides if you want to go there. But
it's true. So just guys, I think the biggest thing is believing in yourself and believing in what you need and what's important for you, and really expressing that this year is going to happen. Things are going to happen fast. So anything that you need to work on, like, reflect in, because building that skill is going to make the year easier, so it is going to be knowing yourself well, to be able to move through this year as easy as you can, and sometimes it's not so easy. And I know we've had a few years that it's been a little rough, but this one, we've given you the tool. Keep working with your intuition, keep listening, and working on yourself. And it's gonna be a lot easier for you to get through what's coming up this year. So know thyself, as Wendy has just written. So
beautiful. I love that.
yeah.
Right. So this is all the time we have for now. So we're going to close. And I just thank you, Mary, for coming on so much. Final words is just remember to listen to your soul. Your soul power living is the most important thing you can do for yourself. And every time I bring somebody here like Mary, and you can find her at marydalba.com. You can find me at angelscapes.net. So we didn't do much of that here, but please reach out to us to help you learn these skills and do these things and live that soul power living that's going to change your life in a very healthy, happy way. So for now, stay safe, work on your intuition, and give each other the love they need.
Including yourself, the love that you need to.
Yes. Okay.
All right, guys. Take care, everyone. Thanks.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you for joining the Angelscapes podcast. We hope you've gained new insights and inspiration for your journey to uncover and access your soul's power. For more information and a deeper dive into finding clarity in your life, go to angelscapes.com. Remember to subscribe so you can be part of the discussion. It may just change your life. See you next time.